Hello there. Thanks for joining us again today on Dr. Teach Me to Parent. We have a very special program today, and we're going to look at the topic of pornography in the home, pornography in family life. And we have a very special guest, Mr. Forrest Benedict is with us today, and we'll introduce him in just a moment. But for our topic today, let me just put it into perspective by this quote that I'd like you to kind of be aware of, okay? There cannot be peace among nations until there is peace among neighbors. There cannot be peace among neighbors until there is peace within ourselves. Now that's the issue that I'd like to kind of just capture today. Peace within ourselves. And pornography as a topic suggests that there are a large number of people in our society, a large number of homes in our community that are not at peace. And in fact, they're seeking peace, but they're seeking it in wrong ways, in ways that will never, ever lead to true peace. So we're going to take a look at that topic today, and Forrest Benedict is with us, who is an expert in the area of pornography, and Forrest has written a book. And there's on your screen there, Life After Lust. So it's a great book. I've read it, and I recommend it to you. If you are struggling with pornography, it's a book for you to read. If you have kids in your home that are struggling with pornography, or you think they might be or will be, great book for you to have. So as a family, it's a book that might be a resource for you. And there are other ones that Forrest will bring to our attention that might be helpful to you as a family in dealing with this issue of pornography within the home. So welcome, Forrest. Nice to have you with us today. And join us in our discussion. Let me start out by this, by saying this, pornography. A very simple answer. What is it? You know, kind of how do we separate that from pornography or lust? Is maybe lust and pornography are the same? Yeah. Help us put that in perspective.
Yeah. Well, what I would call pornography is, something that's explicit, something that's objectifying people. Sometimes it's interesting because I think back in the day, maybe when I was a kid or when you were a kid, pornography was a lot different than it is now, where that might just be naked people, posing or having sex, and nowadays pornography can be anything, much more explicit than that, violent. So basically the definition would be more like explicit nudity that's objectifying others and in some form of media.
I came up with a definition of lust.
Oh, nice.
And I'd be interested in your comment about that. And the idea that I came up with was that lust is really a desire for a sexual relationship in some form. It could be visual or personal or whatever, but no personal relationship involved.
Yeah.
So it's without a personal relationship.
Yeah,
it's a sexual relationship without a personal relationship. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And so we can obviously lust after people that we don't know. Although I would put a little twist on it, though, because I think we can desire somebody that we're in a relationship with, and that's very healthy. But I have actually seen, especially sex addicts in recovery, like sometimes they do have an unhealthy lust even for their partner. They actually objectify their partner and use them as an object.
So there's no relationship, it's just an object relationship.
Good point. Yeah. So even if you're married, I mean, it can still be
How
unhealthy.
deep is it in our society? How deep is it in our family homes? In our community? Are we talking 10% of the population of people that are into this thing, or are we talking 50% or whatever?
Yeah, I think it's difficult to get exact statistics on that because a lot of this is secretive behavior. But what I have seen is it was about 6 to 8% of adults that are addicted to pornography or sexually addicted.
Not necessarily use it or look at it, but are addicted to it.
Well,
which is a little different level.
For sexual addiction, so that would include pornography and other types of.
That's not uncommon in terms of addiction. When we think of alcohol addiction, various kinds of drug addictions, in that 10 to up to 20% range. So I mean, is that kind of so that would suggest that it falls within that addiction range of people.
Oh, yeah, but I think what we don't know is how many kids are addicted. I think we don't really have a way of measuring that, and it.
What do you mean by kids? I mean, you're talking about 8-year-olds, or you're talking about 14-year-olds?
The youngest client I've seen for pornography addiction is 8 years old.
8 years, is that right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and unfortunately,
that's a little bit unusual, but I mean,
well, yeah, but it's not unusual for kids that age to be exposed to pornography. So it doesn't mean they're addicted, but the average age is said to be 11 years old. I think that's average, though. So you got to imagine there's a lot of much younger people accessing it, and it's not like we have statistics on that. But I think it's any kid that has the ability to use a device, including my 4-year-old son, could access pornography.
Sure, could.
Yeah. So that's
pop-ups and various kind of things that happen.
Yeah,
sure.
Definitely.
Not that they mean to do that necessarily, but sometimes it just comes to them.
Right.
Which is a problem. And I mean, it's an industry that's very active. It's an industry that's very proactive. They want more clients.
Yeah, definitely.
They want more people to use their product. So they actually create these systems to bring pornography to you.
Yes.
We always think of us going out and seeking out pornography, but that's not necessarily the case, is it?
Yeah. And I've even heard of it seems really messed up that this is out there, but a child could search for something like Pokemon, and there could be a pornographic version of that that's available, and so they could really search for something very tame and find something very explicit, unfortunately.
Yeah, Pokemon.
Yeah, anything. Name it. You name it.
I mean, that's really deceptive.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, so the pornography industry obviously uses deception to seek out these young kids who are, innocent, looking for Pokemon innocently.
Right.
And all of a sudden they're into a whole world that's over their head.
Yeah. It's scary. I think this topic for all parents is pretty scary when we think about it. And, that's actually part of my hope in being here, is that we as parents can realize that there's actually some things we can do, even though this feels very much out of our control.
But who are these users? I mean, when we talk about people who use pornography or access pornography and make it part of their life, I mean, are these people who are men and as compared to women? I mean, are they young? Are they old? Are people 60, 80 years of age using pornography?
Yeah.
I mean, is this a religious population or non-religious population of people?
Yeah.
I mean, who are these people that are into this kind of quagmire of lust?
Yeah, it's a great question. Actually, I really believe, and I've read this too, that there's really no demographic that would explain who is attracted to pornography and who gets addicted to pornography. So I think this is super important, that men and women can get addicted. Actually, one of the groups I run is for female sexual addicts, and also boys and girls, and then certainly people of all ages. I think the span of people I've seen is 8 years old to like 80 years old,
So in the older population?
Yeah, anybody. Anybody. I think, I mean, it's so alluring. It's so available. It's alluring. It's free. At first, we don't think it's going to be problematic, and actually, it's interesting. I think within religious populations, there's even more of a enticement, actually, because you get that adrenaline rush of doing what's off limits. That's
right. Anytime you're into behavior which is questionable or secretive or private, or you want to keep it in a secretive mode, there's this kind of rush or this excitement or this fear that overcomes you, and therefore there's even more likelihood,
Yeah, I think that can add to making it more addictive, because it is exciting, even though a lot of people do have quite a bit of shame and guilt about this behavior, but they can still get trapped in it.
I've always read that there are more men than women.
I think that's probably true.
Into pornography addiction.
I think that's true.
I mean, but it seems to be the case. Yeah, and there was some research, and I'd be interested in your comment about this. Some research has been done this way. What is it that brings about kind of a sexual attraction or a sexual arousal to men? And what is it that brings a sexual attraction and arousal to women? And the research has kind of come down on this kind of a general finding anyway, that men are attracted visually. And so their whole sexual attraction is based upon visual exposure. Where women are much more attracted and aroused sexually by touch.
Oh, yeah.
So it's the sense of touch versus the vision. So if it's vision with men, you would more likely then expect to see men in this whole addiction
Yeah,
industry because it's
yeah.
visual.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely have known women that were addicted to pornography.
Mm-hmm.
I think the thing with men, I'll just throw in, and I appreciate you sharing that too, the research piece of it. But I think with men, it's a lot more tolerated, even kind of downplayed in our society. Like
allowed, so to speak.
Yeah. They just think all men do that. For women, it's looked down on. I think we kind of demonize women that deal with this.
Give me a kind of a short answer to this one.
Okay.
What home is most likely to be vulnerable? What type of home? And then what type of child is most likely to be attracted to pornography? Is there kind of a characteristic of a type of a home? Is there a characteristic of a type of child?
Yes. Well, the short answer, and I'm happy to expand.
We can expand on it.
Yeah. The short answer is every home and every child.
That's wow.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
But there are certain dynamics that would make children more vulnerable if there's abuse or neglect or parents that are just disengaged, emotionally.
Detached. Working, gone,
right.
absent.
Exactly. Yeah.
Self-absorbed.
Exactly. Yeah. The child can use pornography as a way of dealing with their emotions. They can, kind of like their surrogate parent almost, That's how they deal with their life. So that's how I've seen it develop into a pretty strong addiction later in life.
So these kids are really at risk.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I would imagine a kid who experiences pain. He's been hurt in some way.
Yeah.
Or neglected, left alone.
Yeah.
That's pain. That's emotional pain.
Definitely.
The kids have been, obviously you referred to them as abused kids. So it's attempting to cover up that abuse feeling or that neglected feeling, or kind of give a positive or a high experience when you're really feeling low.
Yeah, comfort.
Well, it's a way of doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it helps them survive childhood. It may not work so well as an adult.
Yeah. Hey, we're at a break point.
Okay.
And let's take a little break, get a cup of coffee, and come on back in about 2 or 3 minutes, and we're going to pick up our conversation with Forrest Benedict on our general topic of pornography, but looking at pornography as a drug. It's an addiction, but looking at it like a drug. So come on back, and we'll see you in a couple minutes.
A dentist who has a passion for superior aesthetics and comfort, you need Dr. Christopher Wong with Cedar North Dental. Call 559-432-4948 or visit cedarnorthdental.com. Fresno Rescue Mission's Rescue the Children program is a protected, secure environment providing emergency and long-term services to women at risk, abused, homeless, previously incarcerated, and women with children. The community provides women and their children a place to get away from destructive lifestyles, offering a place to heal, learn, and grow. Give to the Fresno Rescue Mission today.
Opportunity isn't always given a door to knock on, so we built one. The door to our kids' futures is often crowded by temptation and misdirection, making it difficult for them to reach their full potential. But once they enter that door, our club door, inside is a place of hope and opportunity. The second home for the nearly 4 million kids we serve every year after school and in the summer. Inside our doors, youth development professionals and mentors provide the guidance, support, and encouragement needed for every kid and teen in an enriching and safe environment, no matter their circumstances. Boys and Girls Club set the standard as the #1 advocate for youth during the out-of-school time. We assure success is within reach for all kids and teens in America, with club members on track to graduate from high school with a plan for the future, demonstrating good character, and living a healthy lifestyle. We're leading America's youth, fostering success well beyond the basketball court through hundreds of programs, from robotics to the culinary arts, providing unlimited opportunities for those seeking. This hope and opportunity builds character, creates leaders, and helps all kids define their future, ensuring young people find their passions, reach for their dreams, and achieve their full potential. Much can be found inside our 4,000 doors nationwide and on military installations around the world. Boys and Girls Clubs is the opportunity for all kids, and our doors are open. Great futures start here.
Satellite television transforming the Middle East through hope in Jesus Christ. Sat7USA.org.
CentralValleyTalk.com.
Well, welcome back, and I'm glad you're joining us again in the second segment here now on our topic of pornography. This is Dr. Hedberg, and remember, we're basing on my book, Dr. Teach Me to Parent. So get the book on my website, booksbyhedberg.com. Now, we're talking today with Forrest Benedict, who's written this book, Life After Lust. And that book is a great book, is a resource for you, and he's got some other ones to mention here at the end of the program. But I read it, and I have some questions. Forrest, let me ask you this question as we kind of move on to this whole thing. Pornography is a drug. You kind of address that in your book. Pornography is like a drug. It's not just something you look at, but it has the effect as if you're actually taking something like a drug. You're ingesting it, and it affects the body. It affects the brain.
Definitely.
How?
Yeah, I think people might, be kind of taken aback by that idea of pornography being a drug, because obviously you're not ingesting it like other drugs.
Yeah, most people wouldn't think of it that way.
Yeah. But the way it works as a drug is because of how it impacts the brain. The brain produces all the chemicals instead of having to ingest the chemicals. So we still can get this huge dopamine spike, like using other drugs, and so.
And a dopamine spike is really
amazing.
an arousal. It's really an excitement.
Yeah, it feels amazing. So it can become very addictive in that sense, and how it actually changes the brain. It rewires the brain and actually impacts the prefrontal cortex of the brain, which would give people a less self-control to stop themselves from going back to it next time. So in that sense, it can be
So it's like a very powerful drug over which you don't have personal control.
Right.
I mean, you can't kind of like stop the train. I mean, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly. Like
slow it down, maybe.
Just like other drugs. Yeah, and I have found though that people that are sexually addicted do at times find it more difficult to recover from this type of addiction. And I think part of that too is that we're sexual beings. It taps into like a real need that we have, just like food addiction taps into
Sure.
a need that we have.
need you have, yeah.
So it's just used in excess, and we're not really wired for that.
So how would you then describe addiction? I mean, you've been using the word. It's an addictive drug. It's like another drug that's addictive. It produces the dopamine rush, the adrenaline rush, the high. So that naturally would then say, what's the addiction?
Yeah.
Is the addiction to the drug? Is the addiction to pornography? Is the addiction to the arousal?
Well, kind of all of the above, but really the addiction to the chemicals produced through viewing pornography. So we even call it a process addiction. Like you would get addicted to the process of viewing pornography, and so just like any addiction, you're exposed to it. At first, it's amazing. You go back to it. Over time, you get to the point where you don't experience the same amount of pleasure out of it. So maybe you go to use it more often. Or some people, I've seen them even go to more extreme forms of pornography.
Well, it's progressive.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have a little bit,
Yeah.
Which sometimes we call that soft porn.
Yeah.
Then eventually it leads to greater and greater, more intense and more visual and.
Yeah, and one of the dangers of the internet now is that, our brains really thrive off of novelty, and something novel, something new and unique. We get excited about that, and the internet is unlimited novelty. It never is ending. The type of stuff that's out there.
Well, that's what makes a program attractive or acceptable or desired or watched.
Yeah.
So it creates this kind of arousal. It creates some kind of a life
excitement.
Excitement.
Yeah. And so I've even seen people go into illegal forms of pornography or things that they never thought they would go to, just to kind of get more of that feeling, because the softer stuff didn't really do it for them, like the newer stuff did.
I've heard that pornography is different than, let's say, alcohol as an addiction drug, or marijuana as an addictive drug, or heroin, or whatever drug you want to do. And here's the difference, as I understand it. When you use alcohol, there's an end point. You use marijuana, there's an end point. If you use heroin, there's an end point. You die. You die from those drugs.
Yeah.
Eventually, it leads to death.
Right.
Pornography does not. Pornography never leads to death.
Yeah.
It just leads to more and more and more. But what's the end point? What does it lead to?
Yeah, well, I would say it can lead to death in a different way. The way that it can lead to death is, and this would be not just for pornography addiction. I know it's harder to imagine pornography addiction leading to death. It's not like you'll use too much and then you die.
That's
right?
what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah,
right.
I know that's what you mean.
That's
but
kinda...
when people when they can't get free, they can get really depressed. They can get suicidal. Also, the other piece to it is other types of acting out can really lead to very self-destructive things.
So the death is not from pornography. The death is from the result of pornography, what it leads to.
Yeah.
And then what that leads to.
Yeah.
Like in depression, could it eventually lead then to suicide?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And then there's also not just the physical death, but I think the death of self-worth and the death of relationships. I work with a lot of people that have destroyed their relationships over this. So we could use it in a more metaphoric sense.
Sure,
also.
yeah. Let me ask you this. When you're talking about addiction, as you have, and I appreciate your definition of that, but is there a trigger to that? I mean, we always think of, okay, I'm addicted because of something.
Yeah.
And is the addiction here to pornography only an internal thing? It's a drug arousal thing within our brain. We get dopamine, and is that what it is? Or is there some kind of a sociological set of triggers? Are there things that make me do this?
Yeah.
As the old devil made me do it kind of an idea.
Right.
Is there something out there that is generally considered to be a trigger to the use of pornography, which leads to the addiction of pornography?
Yeah, I would say that's more likely once somebody's already addicted to pornography, then lots of things can be a trigger. I talk about how it can be an internal trigger or an external trigger. So the external triggers could be seeing somebody at the gym that's, not wearing much, and it triggers that need to want to, or that desire to want to go look at pornography or look up something like that.
So it's a visual.
Yeah, visual trigger. But I think a lot of people struggle with the internal triggers, which is just like feeling rejected or feeling depressed or feeling angry, feeling like having some feeling that they don't want to deal with.
What about loneliness?
Oh, yeah.
What
That's
about
huge.
internal pain?
Oh, yeah, exactly.
That you just are lonely and pain. It's a painful experience.
Exactly. Yeah, loneliness is huge because I think pornography, it's this fantasy of being wanted. The person on the other side of the screen obviously doesn't know that you're there, but you get this fantasy of, hey, they want me. They want to spend time with me, So that can be very alluring if you're feeling lonely, if you're feeling alone,
So an empty, it fills a void. I mean,
Yeah,
it kind of gives you something to do. I often heard that pornography is often engaged in late in the night. And early in the hours of the morning. People wake up in the middle of the night, go and watch pornography. Hour or two, go back to bed and go back to sleep.
Yeah.
Is that a pattern? Is that a sign of real addiction?
Well, I think the piece that would be most likely the sign would be the secrecy of it. That more people would do it in the middle of the night because that's when they can get away with it.
That's right.
So
Nobody's
the
watching,
secrecy of it.
Yeah, the kids aren't going to be around and coming into the room, and
your partner's asleep or whatever. So, but there could be the other piece to it too, where if they feel like this need, they have to get their fix, then they might wake up in the middle of the night to do it. But I know, part of this comes from my own story, and I was definitely the kid that was up way later than my mom knew, trying to find whatever I could find, and became very good at sneaking around.
Well, kids can be very, very secretive.
Yeah. And it's even worse if they know more about technology than we do.
And they do.
Yeah.
And they do. I mean, every kid knows more technology than the average parent.
Yeah.
So they have the advantage over. So
Absolutely.
as a parent, we have to be much more aware and much more proactive. We'll come to that a little bit later. I want to kind of look at that issue because I think that's an important one that parents have to kind of think through in terms of their readiness to deal with this and how capable they are in detecting it and preventing it and dealing with it, within the home. But on this other point about the addiction of pornography and being similar to other kind of addictions, is there a way out? I mean, addiction seems to be a hopeless thing.
Yeah.
It seems to be almost like you're helpless, and there's nothing you can do. You're almost like a victim with no power.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Well, in like 12-step circles, they talk about a person being powerless. I think there is a point where we can feel very helpless. I like to kind of empower people, though. I feel like there's a lot we can do. Sometimes that means knowing that we're powerless to do it on our own, and we need help. I mean, nobody can really do this on their own. So, that's part of the purpose of the book is giving people strategies and giving people hope.
That's a powerful statement. Is that true? I mean, if a person's addicted to pornography, he cannot get out of it by himself. He can't just decide, okay, I'm not going to do that anymore.
I haven't seen that
happen. He
happen.
really needs more.
Yeah. I've seen so many people, including myself. We try to do everything on our own. But part of this, too, really fits with this being more of an intimacy disorder or an attachment disorder. So it's like we really, if we're seeking love or comfort through pornography, we can't really get that. And just stopping the behavior.
If you give this up,
yeah.
Then what is there?
Yeah. You got to replace it with something that actually satisfies, that real love or that real comfort. And so, having an accountability person in your life, or, if you're a child, starting a conversation with some adult that you can trust, I just feel like we can't do this alone.
That's very discouraging in a way.
Yeah.
But it's a truism.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to kind of understand that you're dealing with an addiction that you just can't go home and say, okay, that's the last time I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
And we know that in a lot of addictions, cigarette smoking,
very difficult. Yeah.
Drug addiction of various kinds. It requires more than just making that decision to throw the pack away.
Yeah, exactly.
Although some can do that, but
Yeah.
but it requires more than that.
More power to them if they can do that. That's awesome.
Hey, we're at a break and get a cup of coffee. And come on back in just a few minutes. We're going to pick up our topic on pornography as we talk about how do you get out of this rut? How do you get out of this self-defeating behavior? So come on back in just a couple minutes, okay?
The Green Gables Care Home is a 24-hour assisted living facility for the elderly, located in Clovis, California, offering spacious private and semi-private rooms which are wheelchair-approved, catering to the special person in your life who needs attention and wants to live in a loving home environment. The Green Gables Care Home has assisted living and secured homes for elderly persons with Alzheimer's, memory loss, and for your loved ones needing assistance with their activities of daily living. Call 559-307-0950 and visit GreenGablesCareHome.com.
Sometimes good intentions hurt rather than help. For just $1.76 per meal, the Fresno Rescue Mission offers more than food. We offer hope. Please donate today.
Do you need a locksmith? Layman's Lock and Safe Service and Repair is available for you. 559-228-1805.
Gained a lot, learned a lot, and got a lot of love. If it weren't for the knowledge that I had gained from the classes at PCC, I probably wouldn't be the mom I am today. See, there it goes.
I would love you to meet my son, Aaron. My situation was very difficult. I didn't know how my life was going to turn out.
We graduated in June 2010 and we got married in July. And through family, the Pregnancy Care Center changed our lives.
The Pregnancy Care Center was a huge, vital part in helping me walk through that pregnancy, in educating me and loving on me during that time.
Choosing a Medicare plan can be difficult and frustrating. Susan Hatch can guide you through the Medicare maze and help find the right plan for you. Susan helps people understand the confusing and drastic changes that occur every year in Medicare. Susan will only recommend plans that will protect your assets and allow you to continue to see your personal doctor. As a 100% independent agent, Susan is not controlled by any particular insurance company to steer a person onto any one particular plan. Susan was awarded the #1 Medicare supplement agent in California. Look for Susan's Medicare question and answers every Monday in the Fresno Bee. Call Susan at 559-307-2287 and visit MedicareToday.net. Come learn how to be a better author at the Christian Writers Seminar at Good Shepherd Lutheran Church on Saturday, February 10th, 2018.
CentralValleyTalk.com.
Okay, thanks for joining us again as we pick up another segment here of our topic of pornography and talking with Mr. Forrest Benedict, who is an expert in the area of pornography and has written a book, Life After Lust. And if this is an issue of interest to you, this is a book to buy. So Amazon would be a good place, to buy it. Barnes & Noble would be a good place to buy it. So online in particular. So anyway, avail yourself of the book, but let's take another look at this issue of pornography just a little deeper. Because our audience are parents, our mothers and dads out there. And, you've talked about addiction and you've talked about young kids being very vulnerable, as young as 8.
Yeah.
But more
younger.
like age 11, 12, 14, and so on, as they enter into this world of pornography. And what's the words for mom? What's the words for dad?
Well, the first words would be, I think as parents we can feel very helpless. We can think, oh my gosh, there's so much to do, and how can I even begin? So I just want to reassure parents that there's so many resources available to them that can help them prevent some of these difficult things from happening. I don't think we can fully prevent our kids from accessing porn. I feel like we all need to assume that it's going to happen at some point. So I think
it's a tough way to live.
Well,
you know, if you assume that your kid's going to fall into this quagmire of lust and nonsense.
At least be exposed to it.
Yeah.
So, and that's what I love about some of the resources I've come across is it helps them realize, it helps them prepare their kids. Just like you'd have a conversation with your kids about drugs, hopefully before they try it, right?
That's right.
It would be similar with pornography, where you would say, some of the resources help them understand what pornography is without giving them a lot of ideas that they don't need in their brain. But it gives them a strategy too. Like if you see pornography, how do you respond, and how do you talk to your parents, and then how the parent responds is so important, to not be shaming the kids for what's wrong with you for looking at this, or anything that really shuts down the child from feeling like they can come to their parent is going to be kind of shooting yourself in the foot as a parent, unless if we're shaming and we're just shocked and don't if how we respond to our kids will teach them whether they need to keep this a secret or not.
You're kind of suggesting, I think, here that parents really have to be informed on this topic of pornography today.
Definitely.
I mean, maybe 50 years ago, parents, when I was a parent, you didn't have to worry about that. That wasn't even an issue you thought about or considered or worried about. I guess today it's a different story. Parents this is one of the things they need to be aware of and be a little bit more educated on so that they can address it. How can you address it with your kid if you don't know anything about it?
Yeah,
I mean, that's
exactly.
kind of the idea, I guess.
Yeah. And some parents that may be addicted themselves may feel like they can't bring it up.
Oh, then we're in trouble.
Yeah,
then we're in trouble.
It does happen, though. And so I
Dad's
think
addicted to pornography or whatever.
Yeah.
What's he going to do?
Yeah. Well, he needs to get help. Yeah. He needs to get help. But I think even parents that are struggling shouldn't use that as a reason to not talk to their kids,
I see. Yeah, don't do as I do, but do as I say. I mean, that's the problem.
Well, yeah, I mean, my kids we're very open about this topic in our home. I mean, they know that I have gone through this myself, and I've read both of these books to them based on their age, So they're very aware of this, and I think it just has to, as uncomfortable as it is for us as parents, we have to bring this topic up.
When?
Yeah.
I mean, when would you do this? I mean, is there a certain age that you would do this with a kid?
Yeah.
Or is there a certain kind of triggering event, that you have to wait for? And then when that triggering event happens, you need to talk.
Yeah. Well, the triggering event, I would say both. So both, whenever a triggering event happens, we absolutely would be wise to take advantage of that and use it as a teachable moment and really discuss through what their experience was of the pornography and their reaction to it, and kind of set up a plan for the future. Can I share these books?
Yeah, that would be good. There's a book, and we have it on the screen as well.
Okay. So you asked what age to start talking about this, and so there's two resources I recommend for teaching children about pornography and how to protect themselves from it. And so the first one is for the younger children. It's called Good Pictures, Bad Pictures Junior. And this, believe it or not, is for kids 3 to 6. So, and it is.
So, if 3 to 6 year old is, you would start the introduction.
Yeah.
Of that kind of talk.
Yeah. And again, I think all of us parents don't want to bring something into our kids' life that they're not already aware of. I think we fear that it will give them ideas or make them think, more about wanting to do it. But I think the author, I respect her so much, and she was really wise and consulted a lot of people, including myself, which was awesome for this book. And I think she's very careful about how she presents it. So it's not going to scandalize your kids.
So good pictures, bad pictures.
Yeah.
It's like good touch, bad touch.
Yeah.
Is good. Is a good source, a good book for parents to get.
Yeah.
And then read that and use that for discussion.
Yeah, read it to your kids.
3, 4, 5, 6, 8 years old.
Well, for the 6 to, I would say, 10 or 12-year-olds, Good Pictures, Bad Pictures is the first book that came out. So
I see.
Junior's for the 3 to 6, and it reads like a little kid's book.
Like a little kid's book,
And this is for a little bit older, and it explains, the brain, how pornography affects the brain. And what's awesome is both of these books provide a strategy for kids for that moment when they're exposed. And it's age appropriate. So I can't recommend those books enough. It's funny because Kristen Jensen and I are in the same category on Amazon, and she's always number one. And I actually don't want to catch up with her because I really believe in this. I feel like we have to really save this generation of kids from a very difficult thing that they're facing.
That's an interesting phrase that you use, to save this generation of kids.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what Dr. Teach Me to Parent is all about. This is why I'm doing this.
Yeah.
Is that we do have a generation of parents and we have a generation of kids that are at risk.
Yeah.
And we have a bunch of kids out there that we refer to as the throwaway kids.
Oh,
and these throwaway
sad.
kids are likely to be in pornography.
Yeah.
They fail in everything they're doing. School failure, social failure, academic failure, athletic failure. These are tough kids. These are kids that are going through pain and agony and personal loss and loneliness. They're very vulnerable to picking up a book like anything that's pornographic and look at it.
Definitely.
Whether it comes in the form of a magazine or a book or online.
Yeah. Yeah, and I would say those kids are definitely vulnerable to pornography addiction, but also, this could be the pastor's kid. This could be upper class, lower class, middle class. Again, I think we're not doing ourselves a favor if we think it's not going to be our kid, or it's not going to be our kid because they're a girl. There could be. I've run into that. I did a presentation on protecting kids from pornography, and one of the parents afterwards got the book, read it to their kids, and found out that I believe it was like her 5-year-old or 6-year-old boy and 8-year-old girl had already seen pornography. And
and
so
she didn't know about that.
She didn't even
as
know.
a parent.
Yeah. So I mean, that's kind of scary to think about, but thankfully she had the resource.
Do you think kids at 3 and 6 think of it as pornography? Or do they think of it as in something different?
I think it's
Just a
probably
picture, just a
very
photograph.
confusing to them, like especially if they haven't been exposed to that. And part of this is why I think pornography is so damaging, because it can teach our kids things about sex that are very wrong, or very, I'd say, not to just call it wrong, but misusing of other people.
That's why it's wrong.
Demeaning exactly. Demeaning of other people. It's like, do we want them? What do we want to teach them about sex? It's probably not that it's it's just about objectifying the other person. And I just think they're introduced to so much destructive beliefs about sex and about people through pornography, and it's something we need to help them through and protect them from.
So a home is really a place that is targeted by the sex addiction industry. They want the home. There's a father in the home. There's a mother in the home.
Yeah.
Those are two possible sources of use. Yeah. There are kids in the home of all ages. I mean, you're talking about an entire home being vulnerable, not just kids being vulnerable.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about an industry that needs to target or wants to target and does target people of all ages. And so every home is vulnerable.
Yeah, everybody. And so, I'm grateful that you're doing this show. And some people might tune out of this show thinking this doesn't apply to them, but
it does apply.
It applies to all of us.
Apparently, because everybody's the target.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you have a time of loneliness. And maybe you don't live a lonely life, but you have a lonely moment in time. you know, or a painful moment in time, you're more vulnerable then.
Yeah.
Or otherwise, maybe not.
Yeah.
So, I mean, does it catch you just kind of off guard?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think anyone can come across pornography at any time.
Sure.
I find that in my own recovery, like there's times that I'm more vulnerable to lust if I'm not taking care of myself, not getting good sleep, you know, all the stuff I'm supposed to do.
I think it's a good point, because when you're vulnerable, you're subject to whatever is around you.
Yeah, yeah. But
that's the whole thing about addiction, drug addiction of all kinds.
Yeah, exactly. So I think there's certain times when we're more vulnerable than others.
Yeah.
But we can definitely be caught off guard. Our kids can be caught off guard by pornography. You know?
Okay, the resource that you recommend is Good Pictures, Bad Pictures.
Yep.
And it's based on that kind of concept of good touching, bad touching, isn't it? I mean, it's that same idea.
Yeah.
That's in the abuse area, but so that's be a source that parents can then get that from Amazon, I guess, right?
Exactly.
Okay, well, we're going to take a break.
Right.
Then I want to come back and talk about you a little bit. Just some of your background and some of your of sources that are available in our community and what you can provide our viewers if there's interest in this. So come on back in about 2 minutes and we'll pick up the last segment of our topic today on pornography. See you in a bit.
Hey there, world! I'd like to introduce you to someone really special and really cool. This is my mom. My mom is an amazing person. She is a writer. She is a newly transplanted Texan. She is a woman of faith and she loves 80s music. She also is a person with a very rare genetic muscular disorder called Pompe disease.
Pompe disease is a terminal, progressive illness. It's a genetic enzyme deficiency which ultimately leads to the destruction of your skeletal muscles. Those are the muscles that control how you move, your arms, your legs, and your torso. When your jaw or esophageal muscles are affected, you can no longer eat and require a feeding tube. When your diaphragm is impacted, you can't breathe on your own any longer and require a trach ventilator. When your legs are impacted, you will no longer be able to walk without assistance. You can lose bladder and bowel control. It affects children and adults, and eventually it kills you. It is rare, but it's real.
Now we're lucky. My mom's still able to walk, though she uses a cane to get around most of the time. She's still able to breathe unassisted, but she can't go upstairs, and she needs some kind of assistance to get up from a seated position, like if she's sitting in a chair. She has to examine every activity ahead of time to know if there are things like handicap parking, accessible buildings, and even functional bathrooms. All of her activities depend heavily on the weather. A windy day can be just as dangerous as an icy one. She jokes that you can tell what kind of day she's having by whether she can lift her arms high enough to do her hair. And she recently moved into a one-story house specifically with the idea that she's one day going to need a wheelchair to get around. Those are the kind of things she has as everyday concerns. Her normal everyday fears are things like dropping her keys or falling in public and not being able to get up. That actually happened a couple of years ago. She fell and fractured her pelvis because she was unable to break her fall.
I receive an enzyme replacement therapy every 2 weeks for life. It's a 6-hour IV. It helps slow the progression of the disease, but it is not a cure. And it costs about $100,000 every time you sit in the chair. Insurance takes care of most of that if you're lucky, but not everyone is, and the expenses add up very quickly. Things like wheelchairs, accessible vehicles, special housing, travel costs to medical conferences, doctor's appointments, and clinical trials. Luckily, there is a group that helps families with Pompe handle these costs. The United Pompe Foundation is a group connecting funds with real people who need help. This was founded by a father whose son has Pompe disease, and they could not find the resources that they needed. They assist patients and their families with medical costs and other expenses that they need to survive day to day. Every little bit helps.
There are a lot of things in life that we really take for granted, and sometimes the scariest things in the world are the things that you can't see. So today we're asking for you to help us shed a little light on a rare and scary disease. Please share this video with your friends, your family, strangers, anybody that you come across. Education is a big thing. It makes a big difference. And another way to make a really huge difference in someone's life is to go check out the United Pompeii Foundation. Their website is in this video description. Click on it, check it out, and go ahead and donate some money if you're able to. Again, this is an organization giving real help to real people who are amazing and need it, like my mom. I love her, and thank you so much for helping us out. Thank you so much.
CentralValleyTalk.com.
Okay, thanks for coming back and joining us for this last segment now as we look at this topic of pornography. And what we want to do now is give you some resources. What can you do? What resource can you tap? What's available to you as a parent to help you as a parent, to help you as a family, and certainly to help your children or any child that you have that might be subject to pornography these days. So our guest, Forrest Benedict, has some ideas about that. And you provide services yourself. I mean, right here in Fresno.
Yeah.
Of course, you can't provide services in Ohio
right.
or whatever. But what's available out there?
Yeah, well, I'll just recommend a few websites that I think, can help anybody regardless of where they're at. Kristen Jensen, the author of these books, has protectyoungminds.org. And
ProtectYoungMinds.org.
Yeah. And that has tons of resources for parents. Fight the New Drug is another great website. And Fight the New Drug also has a program called Fortify that's actually a free program for teens that are addicted. So that's a great resource. And then locally, I'm a part of LifeStar of the Central Valley, and it's a sexual addiction treatment program.
LifeStar?
Yeah, LifeStar.com,
or is it just LifeStar?
Well, it's actually through RubicekandThacker.com. They could. That's the practice that it's at.
But if you put up LifeStar, you would access it.
Yeah. Honestly, if you Google my name, it'll be connected to LifeStar.
Okay.
And LifeStar of the Central Valley.wordpress.com is the LifeStar blog that I've been doing for a long time, and that also does have resources for parents on it as well. So
the main thing is kind of access your name.
Yeah.
And you can get a hold of the book through that, and some of these resources would be available, and LifeStar would be accessed. And so really, in a sense, using your name and putting that up, Google that up, would be the best.
That's the easiest
shortcut,
way.
I suppose.
Yeah, that
is. All these.
Yeah. Although I would mention, I think it's important to mention in our LifeStar program, we not only help people that are addicted to pornography, but sexually addicted in any way, but also men and women that are sexually addicted. And actually, this is really important, the partners of people that are sexually addicted tend to have quite a bit of trauma often, and so we help them as well. And then we do have programs for youth that are addicted as well.
We didn't talk about that, but that's probably a good topic to come
That's,
back and talk about another time.
Sure.
The
Happy
partners of somebody who's addicted to pornography.
Yeah.
Which is the same idea about the partners who are addicted to alcohol. I mean, that's a whole population of people that we need to look at.
Yeah, I think with pornography, the partners feel even a deeper sense of betrayal because it's like, well, what's wrong with me? Why are you looking at porn? You know?
Very common
personally.
question.
Yeah, exactly.
Very common question.
Exactly. So, the partners do have quite a bit of trauma. So those are the resources that I'm a part of here locally. Obviously,
so you run a group for people involved in the pornography addiction?
Yeah.
These are kids groups or adults or?
Well, both.
Parents
well, we do have the program for young people, which is Youth Star. That's a group. All of these are programs. So They have workbooks, they have work we have them do, to help them get free from the behavior, but also heal whatever's underneath the behavior. So for some people, that's trauma. So some people do need more than they need to do deeper work than just stopping something.
Yeah. So it's not a matter of stopping pornography. You're really kind of dealing with the issues that led to one's interest in pornography to start with.
Yeah. And people find that they actually get a lot more deeper healing. They heal from a lot of things as they enter into the recovery process. And then of course, you've mentioned this many times, but my book, Life After Lust, is actually written for kind of people of any religious background. I really want it to be open, accessible to a lot of people. Also men and women that struggle. Definitely parents, as we've mentioned. I share some of my own story in there. So I feel like it's a great book.
You did a good job.
Thank you.
Life After Lust. Get it from Amazon. Yep. Now, before we end today, let me give you the parenting tip of the day. I always end with a parenting tip, so let me just kind of read a little tip for you that you might find helpful and just give you kind of a thought as you move forward into the week in dealing with your family and the children of the family. Here's the tip of the day, okay? Give a child what he can acquire for himself through his own effort, and you will weaken him. But give a child what he cannot acquire by himself, and you will strengthen him. So if you're just going to give kids what they can just get on their own, you're just making them dependent and making them weak. But if you give them anything, it should be the things that they cannot get on their own and where they need help to get it. And then you're developing a kind of a partnership with them, and that strengthens the kids, and it strengthens you as a parent, and it strengthens you as a family. So it's a great quote. Use it in your own thinking today. Hey, thanks for joining me today on Dr. Teach Me to Parents. It's been a great topic. We've had a great guest, Forrest Benedict, and we'll bring it to a close. So thanks for joining us. Bye for now.
CentralValleyTalk.com